The insidiousness of political correctness, rooting out everything from literary classics such as To Kill a Mockingbird to remember coon cheese? It's good to know there are still some sane people pushing back against the language and the woke words, if you like. Kevin Donnelly has penned the Dictionary of Woke, which contains 365 woke words, so you are guaranteed to understand everything lefties tout as they wage their war on the West. It also includes chapters on how to counter this language, which is increasingly filtering into everyday use. And Kevin joins us now to discuss the book. Kevin, always great to see you. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thanks, Rowan. And Rita and James, thank you very much for having me back again.
Well, we've kind of got a good news program today. We've had good news earlier from Lawrence Fox and Harry Miller. We've had good news from Peter Ridd. So I'm looking to you, Kevin, to give us some good news on how we can tackle the woke language. But first of all, just tell us, I love the fact that when you first did your dictionary many years ago, political correctness was all about things like being vertically challenged instead of short or whatever it was. But you write how it's now moved into a far more sinister area. Tell us about that.
It's very true. When I put that initial dictionary together 3 or 4 years ago, nobody had heard of woke. Woke is something, or wokism, that's really happened over the last 2 or 3 years. And it's part of this sort of epidemic. I mean, people worry about the Wu flu or the China virus, but there's been an intellectual illness, sickness, that has really taken over our universities, our schools, much of the media. And this idea of wokeness has infected to such a degree that rationality and reason no longer apply. So Peter Ridd is correct. The barrier reef is not destroyed. It's actually very healthy. But that's looking at the science. That's being objective. That's being impartial. What's happened now, and we see it with gender as well, in London they've shut the trans clinic, Tavistock, but in Melbourne, in Sydney, in Brisbane, they're still pushing in our hospitals gender theory. Again, rationality and reason gone out the window. We've been infected with this ideology, which is very dangerous, especially to young people.
Rita.
Well, words do have meanings, Kevin, and those meanings are important. Tell me about the dangers of ceding linguistic territory to the radical left. When
I've mentioned, you have as well, Rita, in the past, something like 1984, George Orwell, he wrote that if language can control thought, thought controls language. And what the point he was trying to make is that, and this comes out of what Lenin called agitprop back in the day of the Communist Party in Russia. If you can control the language, the media, what people read, how they talk, how they converse, if you control language, you control how people think. So, and you know, I think we have to be a bit positive here. There was the mother, as you all know, a week or two back in Sydney, who, after she had the baby, filled out the form and it had, "Are you a birthing parent?" She crossed it out and wrote mother. Another example, a father, his 5-year-old boy, 5-year-old, came back from preschool talking gender theory with a flag, the rainbow flag. So parents are starting to understand, mothers are starting to understand that we have to recapture the language. And that includes university students who are also being indoctrinated. Monash University has put out a new guide where you have to say we were invaded, you can't be heteronormative, that's guilty of cisgenderism. There's this whole language. And in the dictionary, which is available from my website, there are over 360 words detailing that. And the problem is people can lose their jobs. You referenced those people in England you'd met recently. I'd forgotten their names, but you can lose your job. You can be cancelled. And that, again, it's a serious affair that we have to fight against.
James.
Kevin, you say you've got more than 360 words in this book. I can't wait to dive into it, but can you give us a sample of a couple of the definitions that you've given us to tease us and get everybody out there to order the book?
Well, one is white privilege, and it was interesting some months ago, the then English Secretary of State for Schools, he actually put out a memo to all the schools, to the department in England, the UK, saying that you must stop talking about white privilege as if all young white boys and girls are privileged. We all know that's not true. There are many young white males in particular in England from working class areas who are behind the eight ball in terms of disadvantage. They whether it's reading, writing, doing their A-levels. So something like white privilege immediately puts you on the back foot. I was in a debate with the Sydney group, Dangerous Ideas, and because I was talking against political correctness, against wokism, one of the young women on the panel attacked me for being male, pale and stale. And so again, this idea that the left, the cultural left, they immediately put you on the back foot, or they try to, by vilifying you, by attacking you. So things like white privilege, it's not true. Being Eurocentric, again, not true. And even Germaine Greer, you know, she's been called a TERF, which is one of my favourites, transgender exclusive radical feminist. And the other one would be, you mentioned the New York Times, Barry Weiss, a reporter there who was under so much pressure she resigned last year, I think it was, because she was guilty of wrong-think, according to the editors and those in control. And that's very Orwellian. So something like wrong-think, white privilege, Eurocentrism, these words go to the very heart of Western culture, Western civilisation. And the final one I'll mention is the Indigenous ones, where they always talk about the First Peoples, the First Nation. There was never a nation before Federation. The nation back in the day, before Captain Cook and Arthur Phillip, it was over 500-600 tribes. It was never a nation. And I'd argue also they were not as civilised as the European culture. So again, it's this language we have to be aware of, because they're infecting our children at school, at university, with this language.
Kevin Donnelly, always great to chat to you. People can buy your book, The Dictionary of Woke, there at your website, kevindonnelly.com, is that correct?
That's right, kevindonnelly.com.au.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kevin. Always great to chat to you. Keep up the great work.